Okay, well, it's 12 o'clock. So hello, everyone. Welcome to today's International Women's Day webinar. IIBA is an independent, not-for-profit professional association serving the global business analysis community. A recognized thought leader, IIBA is dedicated to elevating the discipline of business analysis. We provide our global community with relevant tools, resources, and networking opportunities to take control of your career. I would like to welcome our moderator, Dulce Oliveira, to introduce herself and to welcome our speakers today. Thank you, Dulce.
Thank you so much, Anne. I am so happy to be part of this discussion today. So honored, really. And as you can see, I won't go through the full bio, but my career has been in project management, but mostly in business analysis. That is my passion. I was there when IIBA was created that so many years ago, and I was so proud that finally business analysts, the business analysis profession was being recognized this way, and that we could together really elevate this profession. So I'm currently the president of the IIBA Montreal chapter. I work with a group of wonderful people that believe in advancing the business analysis profession. And when I was asked to moderate this discussion today about breaking the bias, especially in the world of business analysis, I just had to say yes. I'm so excited to be part of this discussion. And we have three excellent, great panelists that I am so enthused to hear speak. And I think you can change the slide and to the next panelist. And Laurence Biron, tell us about yourself a little bit.
Thank you, Dulce, and good morning and good afternoon to everyone. So, I'm really, really honored and I'm very delighted to be part of this talk. As you can hear, I'm from a French Caribbean island, which name is Martinique. I'm really, really proud to say it because I saw people from Caribbean in the chat, from Jamaica, St. Lucia, and this is really important for me and for a woman to be able to highlight from everywhere in the world. So yesterday I've been thinking about how to introduce myself, but this was a bit weird because I have decided for so many years to cultivate so different aspect, different facet of myself that I won't be sharing all with you this morning. But what you should remember is I have been one of the people that was not that is not expected. I was the one who was unexpected in my study of law, in my professional environment, at the top government, also in Martinique, and here in Canada. So from in my career, I really decided that I would like to do what I really want. And for that, also, for the business analysis, I could say that I am a brand new business analyst because I just jumping in the official title for 2 years. But in fact, I realized that I have been a business analyst without even knowing it for years. So thank you for being for having invited me, and I'm really honored to be here with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Laurence. And I think next we're going to hear from Trice. Hello, Trice.
Hello, it is absolutely a pleasure, Laurent. It is great that you recognize you've been doing this work a long time, because the business analysis discipline, I've been in this space probably more than 25 years. But if you look at my profile on LinkedIn, you'll see that from business analysis, I decided to blaze trails to disrupt the space once we understood and saw technology changing rapidly, and realized the fact that from getting requirements to working with developers, well, what happens when you have a low code, no code world? What happens when AI comes into the world? So I decided to go off and create new spaces for analysts, for business analysts to exist. And so I'm super excited to be here today. We'll talk a little bit about that in a little while, but it's a pleasure. And we're really excited for all of you to join this amazing conversation today. Thank you, Dulce.
Thank you, Trice. And now we're going to turn it over to Emily. Emily, please, a little bit about yourself.
Yes, sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Emily Midgley, and similar to you guys, I've been a business analyst, just pointed in various directions for about 20 years. So right now I'm more of a process analyst. I coach teams to help them lean out their value streams. I'm also, like Dulce, currently the Cleveland chapter president for the IIBA. And I guess I'm seeing in the chat people from all over the world. So if you're not from the US or not as familiar with North America, that's kind of the north coast of the United States, right on one of the Great Lakes. So maybe the main thing to learn about me is that I'm a learner, business analysis, process optimization, organizational behavior, agility. So, and what I love is, like, at the heart of all of these things is really people and human behavior, getting to know people, their values, what's important to them, and then just translating that into something that works for as many as possible.
Thank you so much, Emily. So as you can see, we have a great panel of very experienced and passionate women today, and I'm so honored to be talking to you and kind of going into your brain and figuring out, well, what can we do here? And so today is really a very important day for women in business analysis as we celebrate International Women's Day. Globally, women make up about half of the business analysts in professionals in the world. And surprisingly, we also earn about 2 or 3% more than our male counterparts, which is, great news for the advancement and having a place of women in society, of course. But despite this positive environment for women in business analysis, there still is gender bias in the industry, as there is in all industries. Not just gender bias, but bias in general. But specifically today, of course, we're focusing in on gender bias as well. And research has found that bias is actually mostly unconscious, and that the barriers holding women back are invisible. People don't even realize that they're doing it. And honestly, sometimes we ourselves can have biases that we're not even aware of, right? So today we're going to, elevate this discussion about bias. Along with our panelists, Laurence and Trice and Emily, we're going to explore how to, as I heard some of the words and read some of the comments, for example, that our panelists wrote in their LinkedIn messages. I saw words like, we will explore how to deliberately and intentionally identify the unconscious and invisible barriers and make them visible. And also we're going to discuss about how do we bring about change, because it's not just about talking what the current situation is, but how do we influence that change? How do we bring about that change? So I'd like to invite everyone on this webinar to, if you have questions for our panelists, please put them in the chat. We will be monitoring those. And for now, we're going to start by asking our panelists a very interesting question, and you may or may not agree with it, and that's okay. This is why we're here. And so the first question I thought of asking is, how do we bring about skills that are generally innate to women? And I say generally because, some women might not agree with this statement, and some women might. And in fact, society may agree with this. There are skills that generally women bring to the table, such as empathy, for example. If that's true, how do we bring about those skills to work for us in the workforce? And I'm going to start with Emily. Maybe you can, enlighten us as to what you think about this topic. Do we have innate skills that we can bring to the table or not?
I think as humans, we all have innate skills, things that come easily for us, and probably maybe this will come through a whole lot today. The most important thing we can all do is just, you be yourself, you figure out what makes you shine, because that's how you're going to best contribute to the world. So I think, at least in the culture I was raised in, that empathy is more strongly associated with women and girls are expected to display empathy. And regardless of whether that was me or my upbringing, I think it's something that I excel in. So you probably heard some of that in my introduction. And I just find it fascinating to listen to people and learn what really matters to them. So, but yeah, with all of that, I think all of this, every human is capable of this. So Dulce, you referred to these as skills. We can learn these things. And it's bigger than work. It's about like being a good person. And so the good news is probably just about everyone here is a business analyst of some sort. And even if your job title is not business analyst, I'm sure you're doing some business analysis. But this is what we do. We figure out like, who are our stakeholders? We go talk to them, we analyze them, we get to the root of what drives them, what drives their work. And that informs how our teams build solutions to address these problems. So I think it's important for everyone to have this this bit of empathy and curiosity about other people. So this also, I don't know, I feel like it's maybe our workforce is starting to change to really need that. So there's the great resignation is happening at least in the West, and people are leaving their companies, but they really leave a culture. They leave corporate culture, they leave a manager perhaps. And if a lot of us as business analysts, we are in technical roles, or at least, adjacent to those technical roles. And at least in what I've been seeing lately, though, the people with technical backgrounds have so much choice. A lot of us have lots of choice in today's economy. We can work here, we can work there. Most of us not everyone, are able to work virtually. We can work from anywhere. It doesn't matter whether you're located in Cleveland to work for a Cleveland company. So as VAs, I think that we can really start to shift the conversation to bring more humanity to the work that we do, what really matters to people. So maybe not just work related, but we can also reach out and just be a person that someone else needs to talk to. So there.
Oh, Emily, I heard in your voice what wonderful comments. You said that women and girls are expected to show empathy. I love that comment, right? Because in fact, like you mentioned, it's about being human, right? All of us should be bringing that to the table, and that we have choices, right? That's thank you so much for that. And maybe I'll go to Laurence. How do you feel about that?
You know what? Thank you, Dulce. When I heard Emily, I was thinking, do we have really, innate skills? Or is it like a conditioning mind that we heard since we are child? Because, I think that there is genetic for sure, and I'm not an expert on genetics, so I won't go on that way. But I think that if we think really about it, there could be a way, to have equality on the different skills. And I think that since I'm a child, I heard people and adults say that, yeah, women are more like this and men are more like that. So I think that I built up and I grew up with that mind. But if the words were different, maybe we won't talk about innate skills. So this is my first point. And my second point is, in case these skills are really our proper skills as a woman, I think that the same way that we have a really good IIBA study book, the guidebook, we should have, a woman skill guidebook to share with humanity, with people. It's like, women has those skills, so just extract, like in an analysis, just extract the skills and be able, to share with other people and to help people to just empower these skills.
Thank you so much, Laurence. Thank you. I heard that word, maybe we're conditioned, right, to expect certain skills, but in fact, let's think about the fact that all of us should be showing them. And Trice, I know you have, something you want to say about that, I'm sure.
Well, I think 100% we as women, we as are brought up a certain way. Laurence said it perfectly, that we have to start making space and creating room for differences at the end of the day. There are going to be differences in the way people are raised. So we have to make room for those experiences so that when they become leaders and they're leading others, that they are hopefully consciously learning about the environment around them. And then same with women, when we, are girls and we can't go play football. We are not playing rough cars or whatever the case in, go-karting. Probably some of us may have, but there are things about who we are as individuals that we don't have the makeup of an individual to go play in a football league. Maybe there are some anomalies. There are some areas where young men may not want to come and play dolls because there are natural things that we do that our brains, the way they operate, our DNA, the way we're born, the way we're assimilated into society. And so what has to happen is that, remember, women, it was the Industrial Revolution by the time women came into the workforce. So here we are coming into a workforce that was not made for us and not made by us. So all of the things that we grew up, having a baby, being able to multitask, take care of children. Remember, a man can't do some of those things. And so there are natural things about who we are. And I think that we've got to be okay having some very tough conversations, because I continue to hear all of the time, when you go into the workplace, you leave all of that alone. No, I don't want to leave myself at home. I don't want to leave me. I want to bring all of me. And then I need you to make space and make room for my differences, because you created the world of workplace without us. So now all we're asking is that we have a seat at the table when it comes to being included and shaping the world. And this is why this question is so important, because it now has to become a question of, do we make room for all of these experiences and all of the things that make us different? And that answer is 100% yes. And we'll talk a bit about how COVID unlocked and unleashed that. So we are all, I think, aligned in this space.
We are. Thank you, Trice. And such a powerful statement you said, that about the Industrial Revolution and the world not being made for us or by us, right? So we have to make sure that there's space for all our differences.
Oh, we're getting ready to make space. I think that's what this is all about. We're getting ready to make space. We're saying since COVID, we sat on the front lines. Mm-hmm. Most women were frontline workers. We were globally the largest demographic to get let go, mm-hmm. the largest to get hit. Yeah. And I will say this, it is beyond time for us to wake up, and we've got to figure out, we've been putting a Band-Aid on a wound that is so deep. And just because we saw these numbers rising, we all got comfortable, like, women are rising, we're probably not in equality of pay, but we got comfortable because we were not counting the cause of saying, where are women? Where are we placed in relative? Are we in STEM careers? Are we leading in science and technology and engineering? Well, probably not. We're giving low-hanging fruit. Those days are done. And we've got to be okay saying that's over and it's behind us. So this is why this is important, is how do we mobilize to move forward so that who we are is represented in every product and every service, we've got to get moving and get the work done that needs to get done.
Yeah, absolutely, Trice. Thank you for that. And also, wouldn't you all agree that we have to engage also our male colleagues who, who believe in the same things that we do and who actually are helping us move forward. I work with the most empathetic colleague that you'll ever know. And so, we're very fortunate to also know that we're not alone, right? There are many of our colleagues that that recognize the biases that that have kind of plagued women in the past, and they're and they want to support us as well, and they want to move forward with us. And I'm just looking at the chat here. There's a lot of comments about this topic, and we have a comment from Christian that says, generally speaking, women want to collaborate, communicate, create a win-win situation, and men want to outshine the others and acquire status symbols. And that may be true in some cases, but my personal experience, as I've told you about my colleague, is the complete opposite. So I like the fact that the human race, right? We're starting to see that we're all in this together, really, and that's very encouraging. And so also, let me see. It had been suggested to me, and I think I'm going to take a IIBA on that account. There's a lot of comments in the chat, and honestly, there's a space called Q&A, which I think that our IIBA support was right in suggesting that to me. If you have a specific question for the speakers, could you use the Q&A as space? It will be much easier to make sure that we don't miss your question.
And I'd like to say something quick about men.
Okay.
They are our greatest champions and our greatest assets. Here's what's happened. Many times we get hurt, we get upset. It is very tough and it is very difficult. And so what happens is that instead of us approaching this to problem solve, we approach it emotionally. We naturally have a lot of them, and men, however they're raised, and I'm being stereotypical here, are not raised to walk around crying. We're raised to show emotion, to get it out, to scream, to get this done. And we gotta, multitask, and we are just passionate people. It is okay. So we've got to figure out how to meet all of our champions and allies halfway, to come together and have conversations that are palatable for all sides. So we've got to also, as women, be welcoming to a different and a unique way of the way that we get our point across to win together. So I love that, because there's no way we can conquer this alone. It's going to take these amazing and incredible people from all over to make this happen, right?
Absolutely. We can't do it alone. I love that, what you said about that, Trice. Okay, so I think we've explored this topic. Thank you for all your input and all your amazing ideas. And so let's move on to a little bit of a different topic now. As Trice said, we have to partner and engage with our amazing colleagues out there, male colleagues in the workforce. So have you seen personally evidence of this new paradigm of inclusion in your respective professional and personal environments? Do you have experiences or stories that you'd like to share with us about how we are progressing in this topic? And I will start with Trice, let's hear from you. Do you have some stories or some experiences you'd like to share, about the positive of what's going on right now?
Yeah, so the positive wise, we are seeing numbers, especially with leadership, me being African-American, we're seeing steps being taken. So when we think about performance reviews, when we think about compensation, what's happening, we're seeing across, and I'm in the tech space, is there's incentivization, right, for equality, for making things equal. Is it wide scale, and are we seeing it everywhere? Probably. I think we're on the way. I think we take some steps forward, and then we may take some steps back. The pandemic showed us our step back motion. But for the most part, we're not where we were in 1917, and we're not where women were in 1920s. We're not where we were in the industrialization of and in the industrialization time period. And we're certainly further along in the 1960s and 1970s when there was legislation introduced in the US that would prevent against discrimination against women and against races. Are we where we want to be? That answer is flat out no. But I will tell you this, you can't fix hundreds of years. So I don't expect things to happen overnight. What I do expect is progress, step by step, as you stated, Dulce, perfectly stated. And I think what you see is everyone coming together and saying, listen, our products are now going to new demographics. Our services are being requested. And the more that we can customize and personalize our services and capabilities as AI and all of these technologies, machine learning, cognitive, start to be pervasive in every area of our lives, it is a forcing function right now for us to get moving, to equalize. And so unfortunately, I think there's a forcing function because now people seeing it hit their top line and bottom line. But now we've got to exploit and take advantage and really get more organized in what we want to see happen out of the workplace. Thank you for that question, Dulce.
Well, thank you, Trice. Again, powerful words. Compensation, right? A big one where we need that equalization. And as I mentioned at the beginning of this session, in fact, in the business analysis profession, women are actually making, generally speaking, a little bit more than men. So that's kind of encouraging, right?
That's one industry. Everywhere else, it's 30% less globally.
Yes.
40% less. The gap is getting worse. IIBA, we better congratulate and thank the organization for being the great equalizer. Yes.
Absolutely. The great equalizer sounds like a great line, a great message. Thank you, Trice, for that. And Emily, so I'll go to you next. Do you see evidence of progress in your environment?
Yeah, and in my environment, I'm thinking mainly of the company where I work, and it's been amazing here. We have a woman CEO, and this is a big Fortune 100 company, and she's incredible, and she gets named to lots of cool lists of like top women CEOs. I work for an amazing company, and I see some of my coworkers putting like, "What, things are great." So I know potentially I'm in the minority here, but there's like the board of directors is half women. And for every employee, there are employee resource groups, we call them ERGs, where you can, like, there's one focused on women. There are several of these focused on lots of different areas. And the idea is like, hey, if you're not a woman, you know a woman. So you can go learn about things there. You can see, what's important to this group, and same with military parents, all kinds of them. But yeah, there's something for everyone there. And what I really love is our company recognizes that getting different types of people and having diversity, having people at the table with their different perspectives and experiences makes all of this just a richer conversation. Like companies that invest in diversity, equity, and inclusion, they do better. So it's not just something to make everyone feel good about the company we work for. Like, it is a smart business decision as well. So in my corner of the world, I do see a lot of difference. And it's funny because the smaller group of us were talking yesterday, and I was distracted and multitasking because I was like, my kids, my this, my that, I have all this stuff going on. And I was like, oh my gosh, as great as this stuff is at work, I'm not living by this all of the time either, because I'm not making it happen in my personal life. I'm not, using, the people out there who support me. I'm not asking for help, and I probably should. So it was a great reminder that I have a lot to learn still. And I'm sure that's true of all of us, but I guess it depends on where you're looking for how well things are going.
Oh, thank you so much, Emily. What a great environment you seem to work at. And if we can continue that progress and other companies adopting, having more women in the board of directors and a woman CEO, there aren't as many as there should be still, representing half of the world population, right? So thank you for the that positive message. And Laurence, can we hear about your experiences in this area?
Sure, Dulce, thank you. So, when I heard Emily, I was thinking, what is my working environment? For sure, I'm working in Quebec for over 2 years. So in my experience in Quebec, in Canada, I should say that I think that people from my company understand that diversity, and every kind of diversity, ethnicity or gender, diversity is really a boost element, because this is something on which you should invest. And in my company, I think that people understand that if you invest in different kind of people, in different kind of culture, and having people coming from France, from Europe, from Morocco, and also be working on the States and also in Canada, make you feel more strong and more comfortable on going on different markets. So I think that there is a human question, but there is also, as you told Emily, a business question. It's really a business perspective, what you want to do and where you want to do with which kind of people, This is my first point. But when I'm looking, of France, where I am from, France and Martinique, I was wondering about, the number of women who are leading, as a CEO on the top, the top 10 of big companies in France and in the world. And I'm sorry to tell that I'm not satisfied, because I think that there are not enough women, and there is no, no academies, no faculties to teach women how to be in a board. I don't think that there is, formal academies for men, but there's, some groups, some specific, environment to help men to elevate and to be on board. And this is something really natural. And I'm just wondering, why don't we have that? Because we have the same skills, and we should be on that way. And when I capture it from a Martinican perspective, it's really different, because in Martinique there is a wide range of women who are entrepreneurs, who really fight for having activities, business activities. And so if I just wrap up the whole, I think, yes, there is improvement, but maybe I am impatient, and I am an impatient woman, and I just would like to say that if I see it, sorry, from the perspective of the new generation, from, my son, who is 9, I should say, yes, this is a strong yes to the fact that there is progress. But when I'm thinking about men on 60 years old, maybe, and this is not sorry about men having 16 years old, but I think that there is a difference of culture. So this is something that maybe we could address later, but this is something about education also. Thank you.
Oh, yes, thank you, Laurence. I love what you said about diversity being a boost element. And the more companies realize that, the more they will actually do it. It's good for their bottom line, which is also a great motivator very often, right? And you talked about women entrepreneurs and educating women to take on executive roles. So powerful. Thank you so much for that. So we'll go on to question 3, and then at the end of our discussion, we'll go through all the questions. Then there are quite a few questions for you ladies, so we'll come back to that. But for now, let's go to question 3, because I think we are on a a path, to identify some of these things that we can do actively, right? And so the question is, how do we collectively and individually bring about positive change? And you've all spoken about, some of the great companies that you work for, and you've mentioned other elements. But how do we, all the people, almost 300 of us on this webinar, how do we individually bring about positive change? And by the way, there are many, many great comments from our male attendees today here supporting us, and we're so grateful for that, and so honored, that you chose to join us and that you recognize the value, that this discussion brings to the table. So thank you. So I'm going to turn it over to Emily to tell us some ideas, give us some ideas about how do we bring about positive change.
So, gosh, maybe a couple ideas. One, the biggest thing that I've learned in the 20 years I've been working is that the best thing you can do is, you do you. And Trice, you said it too, just bring your whole self to work. It is incredibly hard to only bring a piece of you, to only think about this little part of your life, because we're not just working at home, we're also like sleeping at the office. Someone had said at work at one point, like everything is coming together right now. And it takes a lot of energy to kind of separate yourself that way. And also with being yourself, it takes a lot of energy to be someone else. When in the times thinking back, reflecting on when stuff was kind of hard for me, or I was really trying to prove myself, or, I was trying to impress someone or something, I got way too focused on that thing and lost sight of the actual goal. So the important stuff is like, hey, I should be advocating for my customers, for my coworkers, for the right thing, for the values that maybe all of us share. So really think about, what's important to you, figure out where you are at your best and really maximize that, because that's going to really be the best way for you to shine. And then that will also help people pay more attention to that. So if you're trying to, the answer for me is not going to be the same answer for Laurence or for Trice. So figure out what works for you and what you are passionate about. Something else I had seen in the Q&A, maybe some ways for women to address things when we see them, like if there's like a micro inequity or something we notice that's like, ooh, maybe you shouldn't have said it that way. What I have done even a couple times is if I'm on video and somebody says something just very emphatically like this, and then more than once, someone else who is in a position of power would say, hey, it's not okay to say that. So you can get it started. You can provide some kind of visual indication of like, ooh, that's maybe not the greatest thing to do. Or you can, there are questions to ask, or maybe just say, you know what, that's not my experience, or that's not how I see things, and then here's what I see instead. So there are maybe gentle and maybe non-confrontational ways to do some of this stuff, and of course, tailor it so that you are comfortable making these points. And I know Teresa more.
Thank you, Emily. Thank you so much. And I think the message I heard from you is, you do you, bring all of yourself to the workplace, what's important to you. And the last thing that you mentioned is, don't be silent. Like if you see something and if you hear something and you use the word emphatic, right? So don't be silent. Let's not be silent spectators. Let's act and denounce, right? When we see something that is biased, right? So thank you so much, Emily. And Laurence, share with us your thoughts about this. How do we bring about positive change?
I think that, there is for sure individual behavior, but there is something about, social or societal, environment, because you can just shift, one individual behavior and expect the world, the global thing to change. So I think that there is a need to change since little school classes to environment, to work in environment. So I think that there is a need to change the conditioning mind. I'm sorry to insist on it, but I think that is from, primary school. You used to learn and to hear that women and men can do the same things, that, have those like a mantra going every time. This will be a good point. And the next thing is that, in our working environment, there is something to do with leaders and also employees for sure. Because I think that we should help people to recognize bias. Because I think that, wherever they are in conscience or conscience, there are a lot of people that are not aware of those type of bias. And we should help them to be able to do it and also to mitigate it. So this is the point. And we should also, from a business and fiscal perspective, show the interest of the shift, show people how, when you have a different diversity approach, you will gain. Mm-hmm. You will maybe have a low turnover rate. You will have, much more productivity in your firm. So I think that for years we have been, in information and sensibilization, but I think that for now we have to move forward to something much more stronger and much more also aligned with, the business interest, to show that business interest and human interest can just align. But for my own, there will be still the human interest on the top and the business interest little after.
Of course. Oh, thank you, Laurence. And some of your thoughts are so powerful as well, right? I heard we need to stop the conditioning right from the beginning, right from primary school, and we need to become aware and make others aware of the bias, right? Of all the different types of biases that can exist out there. So awareness was one of your strong messages. And then I heard, what's in it for me, like making sure that the businesses discover that, there is a financial and productivity gain, right? By eliminating and by progressing in this area of stopping the biases. So powerful. And I know it reminded me, Laurence, that I know you mentioned you have a 9-year-old son. And I was thinking, what a great opportunity for mothers and grandmothers. I have 4 grandchildren, 3 of whom are boys, and one is a girl. And so what a wonderful opportunity to start from when they're very little, right? To do away with or not condition them to be, to be biased. My oldest grandson thinks that pink is only for girls, and so I'm working on that. I show him pictures of his grandfather in a pink shirt. See how great that is. So even little things, I was very surprised that even from an early age, some of these biases, come into play. So thank you so much, Laurence, for those insights, and Trice. Please share with us some of your insights as well about positive change.
Yeah, so mine might start a little different. It is very difficult to fix what you can't influence. Mm-hmm. So here we are asking for change when we haven't changed ourselves. And I wrote just my recent book on this. It talks about becoming a digital unicorn. And what a unicorn means is it means becoming unique, becoming a standout, changing your mindset, as Laurence said earlier, to know you have a seat at the table and getting rid of that syndrome that makes us feel like we're imposters. Because the moment that we show up very confident about what it is that we want and the change that we want to see, and then we become the change that we want to see, it's easier to influence. So step one is to understand your purpose in this season. Because when you walk in the door knowing your purpose in this season and say, listen, here is where I'm going in my destination. There are blockers in my way. Number one, I don't get the equality, the equal payment. Number two, when I'm in an environment and I'm speaking up in a meeting, I get dismissed. Number three, I see the microaggressions. So I have somewhere to be. And all of these things that are coming in my way are blocking me from getting there. So how can we have the right conversation in the room so that I can give you my best, but you're going to in turn have to give me your best? Change the conversation. We are not victims here.
Love it.
It's been many years that we've gone through what we've gone through, but I'm not a victim. I'm a resilient warrior. And I'm here to change your mindset. So number one, let's get busy filling ourselves with so much skill that when we walk in a room, people can't deny us. So number one is as I stated, we've got to get busy filling ourselves up with our purpose, research, getting prepared to influence, because that's the goal at the end of the day. Is we want to be people of influence, women of influence. Number two is once you've dealt with your, I said first the skill, the purpose, and all of that, the mindset, I'm going to lump all that into one, right? It's getting rid of imposter syndrome. It's really personal development, and it's getting us ready for the big wave that we're getting ready to ride. Number two big thing is research. Become so filled with knowledge that when you go into a place, you can never be displaced, because your gifting and your knowledge are so high that people will make room for you no matter what happens. You're easy to be dismissed and maybe let go, but when you are a force, people have to do something with all of that. So you got to cultivate yourself. That's number two. Once now we've dealt with our mind, we're no longer imposters. We know we have a seat at the table. We're big, we're strong, we're cultivated ourselves. Now this final wave is we've got to build coalition. You can't just wake up every day and do the same thing. That means you have to volunteer. You have to be a part of nonprofit organizations. You have to stand in with others and be able to take all of the energy, the things that you deal with in your day, and be able to connect with others around the world, because it is going to be that voice of confidence, your gifting, your skills coming together with the next person. Imagine if we spent all of our time cultivating ourselves and then we show up saying, we're not taking this crap anymore. You can't deny us. So we do those things. We lock arms, we lean in as powerful people. And you watch what's getting ready to happen over the next 2 to 5 years when we are dominating technical spaces, engineering spaces, spaces that never, as Laurence said earlier, she was not expected to be where she is today. Well, guess what? We're getting ready to have a lot of people that's not expecting the kind of change that they're getting ready to see by the time we get done. How about that?
That sounds exactly what where we want to go, Trice. Thank you so much for that passionate declaration, right? I loved what you said about we are not victims, right? I loved your 3-step approach. The first thing is understand your purpose. Choose your life. What do you want to do, right? Fill yourself with knowledge, and then build coalitions, build networks, which is exactly what we're doing here today, right? We're building networks. We've got people from all over the globe, and that is fantastic. So, what a message. We are not victims. We are here to influence. We are not imposters. We are people of power, right? And we have a presence, not just as women, but as humans, right? We have a presence, and that's so powerful. And there's a few questions on the Q&A that I'd like to get your input about. all three of you. So we'll start with a very interesting question from Jessa. How do you approach bullying? And Jessa says, we're always going to have someone on the other bullying or toxic. And so how can we be smart about this? And she says, I don't want to complain, rather I want to handle this wisely. So how can we handle bullying? And it's interesting. It's not just, in the school environment, it's in the professional environment as well. I know that at the beginning of my career, I experienced bullying. And I was so surprised because that's not part of my values. That's not who I am. Even at a very young age, I had bullying in my in my work environment. And someone went to the boss and said I wasn't pulling my weight. And what's interesting is that the boss did not agree, with that person. And the difference was that I was actually being very detailed oriented. I was actually a BA in training. And so, the tables got turned for that person that was bullying me, trying to make me look bad. And by the way, it was another woman. So bullying is not necessarily, from, it can come from anywhere, right? And so I was lucky to have the support of my boss at the time. And I was able to prove that, no, I'm actually doing the work the way it should be done. So I'm going to turn it over to our panelists. What are your thoughts about handling bullying in the workplace? Emily, Laurence, or Trice?
It doesn't end. It doesn't end. I don't care how far up you go. Don't care where you come from. You can't stop people from bringing their experiences of childhood. I think that's number one. Is you gotta have the right mindset getting into this. This is one big game. So you got to sometimes leave those feelings at home and say, listen, I need to get to the root of why this person is doing what they're doing so that I can out strategize them. See, this is about strategy. You got to play chess with these kind of folks. And I don't play with them. I'm not going to give you the time of day. You said it earlier, Dulce, you document, write it up. You don't have to get emotional. You basically, at the end of the day, say to yourself, whatever it is that you think you come to do, you better go reevaluate yourself. Influence. And I believe you can influence the enemy. You can influence anyone that's coming against you by out strategizing them. And so this would take a long time, but I really encourage people to continue to read and study up on the psychology. It's a psychological warfare that happens against us whenever we come into these places and spaces. So my recommendation is to get very smart, get very strategic, document, and then turn the tables over to them. But then when you turn your information over to the right people who can deal with it, you've done your due diligence and you come across so crisp, so smart that anything they try to say that you did that wasn't like Dulce, like you did, you were so well together, not emotional. You led with strategy. That's part of the key. And I'll turn it over to my colleagues and my peers here.
Yeah, and I think that, this is where you could use your business analyst skills, as you told Trice, because we use every day to analyze situation and people. So do the same thing and don't be silent and just, create your documentation, create your strategy, and make sure that you identify the right stakeholders that will help you and also the ones that you should just observe, And after that, when you got all your conclusion, go to the PO, or if it's the PO, make sure that you have, a lot of people supporting you, But and this is also a question of attitude, I'm not the kind of people just sitting and say, okay, I will wait till it will just pass, This is something just to be, okay, I'm in the place and this is me. And this won't be you and me. Will be you or me. Just choose the way you want things to go.
Thank you, Laurence. And I actually would like to go to a question that is very in tune with what we're discussing right now. So Jillian is asking, please consider providing some gentle and yet assertive ways for women to address the unspoken assumptions and bias against women by women and men. And there is such a delicate balance for women, and even those who have transitioned to be women are unpleasantly surprised by the new biases they face. And isn't that so true, right? So, you know, people that also identify as women will face the same biases traditionally that all women have faced. So some gentle yet assertive ways. Obviously, we're all different, so not all of us are going to be comfortable in kind of you know, speaking out you know, in such an assertive way, but some gentle yet assertive ways. What do you think? Can you give us some ideas about that, Emily?
There were one or two that I mentioned before, just visibly indicating you're not okay with something. Or the first thing that comes to mind for me is, I believe it was Kamala Harris, so the Vice President of the United States. She would say, "I'm still speaking. I'm still speaking," and that may not work, but I think it can indicate pretty clearly that you're not finished, and that person is stepping on you. So I like to use that one, and you know, if it works for Kamala, definitely good enough for me to try it.
Yeah, love it. Still speaking. They're very powerful, absolutely. So it's gentle but still assertive. You're taking your place, right? Thank you so much. That's very, very good to reflect on that. And so I'm going to go. We have a few minutes left, maybe just 4 or 5 minutes. So we have a question about how, as women, have you managed the perception that being passionate doesn't mean difficult? Do you see men being encouraged for that where women are discouraged? So interesting. So are we passionate or are we being difficult? How do you handle that, Laurence or Trice? And Laurence is smiling too. So who wants to go first?
I won't choose between passionate and difficult because I'm not a difficult person. I'm just determined. This is different, you know. Mm. So I have passion in my determination to access what I have in mind to my goals. So this is different. And I think that, you know, I'm not the one that would every day compare what women are encouraged to and what women are discouraged to. You know, I just have a goal and I just follow the path. And so sometimes I will check around, but, you know, I just follow the path.
Just follow. Okay, and Trice.
Is there one more question maybe we can squeeze in super quick?
Yes. Actually, I have a question here about how do you balance both we have different challenges to balance both on professional and personal front. So how do you manage both of those when you come to the, you know, to the professional environment? So
yeah, now these days, they're all blended. And I think that to a certain degree, we have to accept that. Exactly. He's so cute and he's on his way out the door and it's like, and it didn't even bother us. The baby was on his way out the door. He's not a baby. He's probably a teenager.
Yeah, he's 9, but yeah,
he's still a baby.
You saw it's all mixed together.
It's all inextricably linked. The key here is to take the time to list out all of the things that in your professional day that enhance your personal life. And then write down all the things in your personal life that enhance who you are at work. Because once you list it all and have it out before you, you'll see that when they both are optimized and when you're growing in both spaces personally and creating the time to grow professionally, carving out the time to say, I'm going to take a personal day and I'm going to spend it with my family. And then you email someone, your leader, and say, thank you for my day off, because what you did for me was allowed me to plant seed in my children. And then you go back and make it okay, whether it was okay or not, and thank the person. See, it's strategy. And so you've got to really get busy to understand, why don't I have balance in both sides of my life? And many times it boils down to you just not really creating space in every area that you need to create space for. So there are times that you have to block your calendar and say, I'm taking me away, and me and away are going to go have this beautiful encounter together. And when you do that and meditate, I spend a lot of time on mindfulness because it's real. The problem is not the imbalance in sometimes your physical space. It's the fact that you need the capacity to move to this next space in your life. And to do that, it means you have to mindfully and mentally clear out those things that are stopping you from getting there. So I just encourage everyone to keep having these conversations, keep tapping into folks like the work that Emily, Laurence, Dulce, all of us are doing. And Dulce, I'll turn it back over to you, but this has been absolutely incredible.
It's an amazing, amazing discussion. We could actually go on longer. Unfortunately, we cannot. We want to respect our time commitment to everyone that attended. Thank you so much, Emily, Laurence, and Trice, for your insightful and practical suggestions on how we can collectively and individually bring about positive change that will result in breaking the bias, not just in the workplace, but in general as well. And thank you for everyone that attended today. We're so fortunate to feel that support. We're so happy to feel that support for this discussion. It's so important, and you've proven that. So by being present, our male counterparts, our female counterparts, all the human race, that is living, this situation right now. You demonstrate that breaking all biases, no matter what they are, is important to you, and that you value a world that is diverse, equitable, and inclusive. Thank you so much, everyone.